Out of This World: The Surreal Art of Leonora Carrington, a book talk by Elizabeth Allen. Out of This World is a picture book. It's written by Michelle Markle and illustrated by Amanda Hall. It was published in 2019 by Balzer and Bray, an imprint of HarperCollins. The book chronicles the life and creative evolution of Leonora Carrington, who was an artist who lived from 1917 to 2011. She was an upper-class English girl who abandoned traditional social conventions and was kicked out of several schools, but later went on to become an artist and a painter, joining the Surrealist movement in the 1930s. After the tragedy and turmoil of World War II, she moved to Mexico, where she continued to grow in her work, experimenting with radical ideas, fantastical characters, and mythical themes. And the book really chronicles that development in her creative life. This is an information book. It's a picture book biography. It's historical nonfiction narrative, and indeed it's feminist literature, really intended for age ranges of 5 to 10. But given that it's an introduction to an artist, it actually could be used for a wide range of ages. While the book is brand new, so it hasn't actually won any awards yet, it's gotten wonderful reviews. And this is the artist and writer that brought us The Fantastical Jungles of Henry Rousseau, which was a book that won several awards. So just a little background, Leonora Carrington is actually a pretty fantastic character. She's considered one of the lost surrealists. She met Max Ernst, who was one of the leaders of the surrealist movement in 1936, and they had a rather scandalous affair, which the picture book, I think, handles very tactfully. And then on the side, this is a picture that she painted called The Giantess. I will say I think one of the detractors of the book is that it doesn't actually show any of her original artwork. The illustrations are all inspired by her, but they're not actually any of her original paintings. She refused to find a husband at her debutante ball and every other fancy place her parents forced her to go. There was only one thing she wanted: to become an artist. An artist! In those days that was highly unsuitable, especially for ladies. Leonora's father was horrified, and her mother was worried. "You're going to be an old maid at 25, she warned. But her parents gave in and sent her to art school. Leonora's timing was perfect. A group of artists called Surrealists was stunning London with their mysterious creations. So I love this story for its depth and its beauty and the strength of the main character. I think it's a joy to read aloud. The pictures are absolutely fantastic. They're beautifully inspired. I think a little bit more accessible maybe than looking directly at pictures of surrealist art. I think they use the ideas of surrealist art and really translate them nicely for a younger audience. This is the main character, the protagonist. She's a great, inspiring woman. She's a little-known historical figure, but I think she gives us a wonderful model and is a great source of inspiration. And this is also a great introduction to surrealist art, I think, for children, which I think is so fun, and you can think of students having just such a good time learning about this subject and also enjoying doing their own work based on some of the work of the surrealist artists. So thinking about the appeal to students and introduction to the text, I think a lot of the texts focus on the alchemy of imagination, meaning the ability of an artist to use their imagination to create works that then change their reality. And so I think I would start with maybe one of the quotes from the book. And her women did things they didn't do in paintings made by men. Instead of lying on a couch, they were listening to the stars. Instead of posing in gowns, they were going on magical processions. They were friends with monkeys, minotaurs, and mythic birds. So I would ask students to imagine a painting or a work of art that could take them anywhere, and then have them sort of think about where would they go and what would they do and who would they befriend. I love the ideas of being friends with monkeys. And of course, I think a good follow-on activity for this would, of course, be having them create some work of art that represents that. But for the initial discussion, we could just talk about what those works would look like so that maybe they don't feel limited by their current artistic ability. And then I think there's also a good way to look at the book is maybe through the images themselves and looking at surrealist artists. So surrealists created clever and shocking images, illogical scenes that tickled the imagination but evoked a deeper subconscious truth. So in this book, Hall uses a range of techniques that really, she doesn't actually use Carrington's direct work, but she invokes her imaginative style and her colors. And so I think I would have students look at a picture and choose one of the images and then describe how it's both illogical and yet somehow reveals a deeper symbolic or psychological truth. And of course, a natural follow on to that would be an activity in which they created surrealist art of their own.
Is that the end?